This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygax, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
The Roll for Initiative podcast, volume number 3, issue number 135. DM Vince sitting with DM Matt.
Hello, everyone.
DM Chad.
Yo.
DM Nick.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
And we're doing our second show of 2014, even though it didn't sound like the last one was done in 2014, but it wasn't, so whatever.
Trust us, it was.
It was, sure. Yeah, Matt edited it in 2014, so that counts.
Exactly. Yes. We are Time Lords.
Yes.
As far as you know.
Was.
Yeah.
Only were.
And Oscar the Grouch is a Time Lord, just so you know.
Very true. Very true.
So, did there.
All right, so who's seen The Hobbit 2?
Nope.
Yes. I have not, but I think I know how it ends, if it's following a book.
I know someone that was an extra in it.
Wow.
But I haven't seen it.
So
really?
Kim Kardashian?
It's a Kardashian.
Well, according to South Park, she's a hobbit.
Well, one of my friends actually moved to New Zealand and became a resident, and she got in as a hobbit in the film.
She got in the New Zealand as a hobbit?
Yeah. That's requirement to get into New Zealand.
Way to get past customs.
So the Peter Jackson law, I've heard about it.
Exactly. They knew the movie was coming up, so they were just letting the hobbits flood the country.
Okay, well, first thing about the newest movie that came out. I don't think they need to have 3 movies to do this book, so that's my first thing to say. Nick, did you like the movie at all?
I liked it. I can enjoy the movie on its own merits.
Are you nerd raging over it?
No. Oh no. As far as like how many of these so-called Tolkien experts on the web are saying this differentiates for the source material heresy? No.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I enjoyed it.
To me, it felt more. It was Tolkien, but it felt more like watching a D&D type movie to me. As if they finally did a D&D movie correctly, that was a movie for D&D right there.
So that's why I was okay with it.
Yeah. Wizards of the Coast, pay attention. That's how you make a D&D movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not this other crap that they put out.
That'd require their D&D movies to have a budget.
Well,
yeah, but I liked the film. I went with my daughter. She thoroughly enjoyed it. And at the very end, I'm like, what? That's it? No.
I just think it's always funny because if you look at the Tolkien was a huge correspondence person, and he literally wrote a letter that you can read where he talks about how the one thing he refused to do was sell the rights of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings to Hollywood because he said the Americans would turn it into an action movie, and he wouldn't have that. And now we have Frodo action figures.
Yeah.
So it's a movie. That's the point of it. He's supposed to go. He's supposed to be entertained.
Well,
supposed to have fun.
And Tolkien didn't live forever. He isn't cryogenically frozen like Walt Disney.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, he missed the bus.
The Tolkien estate must go on. They must make money, and therefore, that's why you have Bilbo Baggins action figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with the whole thing. You know, I always think back to Mystery Science Theater 3000. You know, it's all part of the song. You know, if you're worried about the science, you should just sit back and relax. It's just a movie.
Right. Exactly. And I can understand those people who are considered Tolkien aficionados, Pierce, whatever, because I do appreciate Tolkien. Who is a gamer has not read any of Tolkien's work? I mean, come on. But the film is fine for what it is.
Yeah. But there's one scene that I just saw a lot of nerd rage over was that barrels in the water scene.
Oh, jeez,
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't seen it, by the way. So if
Chad,
we're
if you've read the book, which you said you've done, then you know.
well, I've read the book. So you're saying it follows the book?
It follows the book very loosely, but there's one scene where they're traveling down the river in the barrels. Apparently, they're outside the barrels, hanging in the barrels, like down the river. Instead, I guess in the book they were, if I remember correctly, they were sealed inside the barrels. That was the difference.
All of them were sealed.
In this one, they were inside barrels, but they were kind of
okay. Well,
they
Bilbo
weren't sealed in.
was
They
the
were
only
not sealed
one.
in.
Yeah, Bilbo was the only one who was not in a barrel.
Right.
He was hanging on to it. He sealed all the dwarves in barrels.
Right.
Well, yeah, in this one they were all hanging out and kind of killing orcs along the way.
Well, no, they were all in barrels. They just weren't sealed in.
Yeah, they weren't sealed in, is what I mean. And I saw a lot of nerd rage over that. I was like, who cares? It'd be kind of boring watching barrels fly down a river.
It's like these guys are saying,
unless they went over Niagara Falls.
The dwarves' beards aren't as long as they should be, according to Tolkien. They should have been down to like his belt, and like, please get over yourselves. All right.
Wait, you have to do the fanboy geek voice when you do that, Nick.
That was not cool at all.
Yeah,
that was not accurate.
It was not accurate in the least.
And Legolas definitely got too many critical hits in that movie.
So many critical hits. I think 20 were loaded.
Yeah, and the next biggest complaint was that Legolas had way too many critical hits according to D&D rules.
Oh my God!
Every
Really?
hit he had was amazing.
That.
Well, he had a lot of karma built up, and he was using them to make critical hits.
Yeah,
well, agreed. You're worried about how many critical hits Legolas had. I think you missed the boat. The guy wasn't even in the.
Right.
It's not like Peter Jackson sitting here rolling dice. Okay. Oh, he got a critical. Oh, there's another critical. Please.
Yeah, and that
it's a movie.
Bilbo hit his hiding shadows perfectly every time.
Well, invisibility does aid in that.
No, I'm talking about. Well, I won't ruin it for you, Chad. Was he hiding from the dragon?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, in the book, of course, he was invisible during that whole.
Yeah, I've been reading posts about this on certain websites and how
took the ring off a bunch of times to hide.
Yeah, the nerd rage is just ridiculous.
Mm.
People take this stuff way too serious. It's a movie, people.
So it's 2014. Yay. And there's another stupid vampire movie coming out soon.
Boo!
Blah.
Vampire Academy starts very soon.
Oh God, yeah, you did. Yeah, I saw the.
Oh my
previews
God,
for that.
what have they done? They have now merged Harry Potter with Twilight.
Yes,
Pretty much. Yeah.
They also have another rip-off Hunger Games coming out very shortly.
Yes,
Yeah.
Divergent.
Yeah, something like that.
No, I understand the books are actually pretty good.
Well, the Hunger Games.
In middle school, oh yeah, I loved Hunger Games. I'll fully admit, great dystopian future setting. But then now, like other authors, I guess, are jumping on the bandwagon, and you have this one called Divergent.
Written the same style.
Pretty much.
First person is apparently the best way to go now.
But I guess,
Well,
hey,
everybody did that with Harry Potter too. As soon as it was over, you had everybody else was doing their own Harry Potter-ish work.
but I got to look at it this way too. On the other side, you know what? If it gets, pre-teens and teens actually reading,
Yeah,
you know what? That's not such a bad deal.
Right.
And it might get them interested in other types of books and literature. Hey, whatever, for what it's worth, if it gets the kids reading books, I'm all for it.
Right.
Well, I'm all for, I'm all for anything that'll get kids reading. I guess one of my pet peeves has always been that it feels like in the last century, we have really dumbed down our degree of literary. Right. What we have lowered the bar when it comes to literary.
Yes,
skill.
you are absolutely correct.
Because everything's becoming more derivative, and it's all about mass market appeal, at which point you do lower it because you're trying to appeal to the widest basis possible.
It's the lowest common denominator.
When I was in junior high, we read The Hobbit for English class. So,
hey,
now see, I read The Hobbit when I was in the 4th grade, and yet I read someplace that the average fantasy sci-fi book that's out today is written on a 4th grade level.
It's like the average newspaper is written at like a 7th grade level.
Well, I think lower than that now.
Yeah, at one point in time, right? It's probably dropped. I mean,
Well, I think the New York Post is written by first graders, actually.
well,
Sorry, New York Post.
When I saw it written in Crown, I just, I said, all right, that's it.
but you do have to give like the National Enquirer and the tabloids for when it comes to the creative aspect. They're actually can be quite amusing. I really though miss the Weekly World News.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
wow.
They did make a Broadway musical about it though. So
The Enquirer is good for making up horror sci-fi games.
yeah,
Get great
Yes.
ideas from that.
Absolutely right.
Weekly World News was the best for that. Batboy.
Oh my God, Batboy was like on the cover every month.
Right. Once they developed the Batboy character, they saw it sold issues, so they just kept running with it.
Or something like the
Or
breakthrough watermelon popcorn diet.
And then, or Satan is revealed in like a piece of toast or something.
Holding hands.
President shakes hands with aliens. Photos to prove it.
About the only newspapers I read anymore is The Onion. So
Print is dead.
I don't-
No.
Print newspaper is pretty much gone because everybody
Yeah.
gets news from the internet now.
Yeah.
Right. It's just too slow.
I'm sure people pick up a newspaper still, and nothing wrong with that. If you want to do that, great.
Yeah.
Just don't pick up the Post.
I pick one up every now and then. I see spiders, and I pick up the newspaper, and
Swat them.
it's great for that.
Freaks.
I get it with the coupons.
Yeah, that's why we're buying it.
All right.
Coupons.
Speaking of divergent,
Right.
we really diverged.
Well, no, we're just talking about an evolving medium in which that actually ties into the our topic for today because it's actually an evolution of gaming for those who couldn't quite gather around a table.
Really, you're stretching it.
I'm sure. Hey, it involved written word that evolved into electronic.
You're stretching it there, but okay.
Yes.
Let's go into some sage advice.
Sage advice.
Sage advice. This week we have a couple emails and a voicemail. If you want to call us, 570-865-4210, the hotline, or rfistaff@gmail.com. So let's start off with our voice.
Or if we could get reviews from iTunes, everybody.
Yeah, Nick's lonely. He needs something to read.
Well, we haven't had any iTunes reviews since October. So if everybody could just go out there, let us know how we're doing on the show. If there's something, also you want to post a review, something you'd like to hear, you can put that there too on iTunes. So
Yeah. Be the first person to post a review of 2014, and Nick will read it out loud.
I will, in the voice of Sean Connery, dear
Nah.
RFI staff.
I'd say you read it as Christopher Walken. That's your best voice.
Well, why?
Yes, first review of
Whatever.
2014 is read as Christopher Walken. There, Matt, remember that one.
Got it.
I'll do it.
I'd like to hear Samuel L. Jackson reading.
We don't have.
See, this is a all ages podcast.
Yeah, I listened, and I'll listen again.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get the beeping sensor sound in bulk yet, so I need to work on that.
I was a Jedi. They killed me. A shark ate me.
I yell. This is how I talk.
I still love
Now
the.
he's doing credit card commercials.
Yeah, I noticed they changed his credit card commercial. It used to say the word "damn" in it. Now it doesn't say it anymore. Well, I used to look. Was it the Samuel L. Jackson beer on the?
Yeah, that was on Chappelle's show.
Yeah, the Chappelle show.
Drink my beer. It'll get you drunk.
Him screaming the Samuel L. Jackson beer.
Oh my god.
Chappelle show. Anyway, first voicemail 570-865-4210. We'll play that. Mute your microphones, guys. Let's play this.
Hey guys, just started the show on elves, and you were talking about how one of the boundaries of a Grugach elf character would be that he has to remain with his tribe or risk being outcast. And it seems like a really good role play challenge, something that you could build into someone's character. Like when we're first introduced to Chewbacca, he owes Han Solo his life, and they've become friends and compatriots, but there's a life debt there. And then there's other scenarios like, why would I would say someone could be a Grugach elf, but you make it a role play challenge for them so that, like Doctor Who is the last of his kind because he believes that he had to kill off his entire race to end the war. And so part of how the actors who have played him since then have had to factor that guilt and that burden within their personality as they portray the character doing other things too. So I'm not saying that someone who plays a Grugach would have to feel guilty for killing them all, but it's the theme of the thing that they could play a Grugach elf, but they have to come up with a reason why he would be in with and remain in an adventuring party, and then role play that in the character throughout. And it could become a fun kind of like an acting challenge, like a creative writing challenge sort of thing. Anyway, love you guys so much. Love the show. Take care. Bye.
He loves us.
Yeah.
Doctor Who didn't want to kill his whole race. He felt he owed it to them.
Yes.
But he has some good thoughts about the
So the Grugach are the Wookiees of AD&D.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or the Tiggers of Pooh Corner.
Wow, that was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Nick
was it too close?
No, you were gargling, it sounded like.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Edit that out. Anyway.
Nope. Leaving it in.
Nope.
Damn.
We may have to make it a drop.
Yes, it could be the drop in the beginning of every show, Nick doing that sound.
Yeah.
No, those are good ideas that he came up with.
I think they're good ideas. I actually do think that's a good idea that you could have. Perhaps you saved this Grugach elf's life, and in their kind of tribal philosophy, he does have a life debt to you now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Great ideas. It's like I actually have started. My first session is always character creation, and that way all my players sit around the table and work out their backgrounds, and then that's when they can interweave that type of stuff into their characters. And when you get two players that really get a good buy-in on that, I think it works better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like it. Good stuff.
Okay, cool. First email comes in from Graham. This actually was not an email. It came from Facebook, actually. A comment on Facebook about Dark.
Cool.
Hey, guys, get rid of Nick. No, I'm kidding.
We didn't want to get rid of Nick. We felt we owed it to him.
Exactly.
So I just love that line from Caddyshack.
Yeah.
I put many young boys in the chair. I didn't want to. I felt I owed it to them.
I like you. You'll die last. Don't worry.
Well, we're waiting. Anyway. Hey, guys. Love the show. I recently started playing first edition game as a DM. Have never DM'd before, only been a player. And I've started to realize that I played in my younger days with a mishmash of first edition basic D&D. I'm sure I'm not the first. No, you're not the first.
No, you're not.
Would you guys consider doing a show or a segment on combat rounds? Having it walked through, commented on, especially what rules use or don't use, would be tremendously helpful. I know you already did the show on Surprise, but that kind of assumed a working knowledge of combat. I would like to hear some more from the ground up, especially since the rules are so spread out through several books. I've read DM Prada's ADDICT Addict document, but hearing a discussion would be so much more helpful. Thanks, guys. P.S. If you're ever down in Austin's way, give us a shout. 3 hours for me. Too far. But, so let's go kind of around the table here talking about combat. Chad, you want to start first on your combat? Because I don't think we've ever really heard your combat for how you handle combat.
Yeah, I wasn't actually there for that show. I handle it pretty much straight out of the DMG. I think I do. The first thing I do is I say, all right, after I introduce the threat, you might say, I then stop and kind of look at everybody and I say, all right, we're about to begin combat. So I need to know what everybody's doing. And once everybody tells me what they're doing, at that point, we do initiative. I will roll for surprise if I think that's appropriate. at that point, once I know the initiative round and I know what they're going to do, so they can't go back now and say, "Oh, I lost initiative. Oh, well, I don't want to do that anymore." I'm like, "Well, sorry, that's what you do." Then I pretty much go, missiles first, magic spells, missiles, magic spells, and then melee.
Okay. And do you use any of that adjusted combat stuff? Armor class versus whatever the hell it's called.
Weapon versus armor class adjustment?
Yeah,
no, I don't. I don't get that. And, I don't do that. I take, to speed things up, because I do most of my regular gaming is done via play-by-post because it just fits my schedule the best right now. And so I will, to speed things up, I will take whoever has the best reaction adjustment, and then I will roll a party initiative using that person's reaction adjustment. And then, and we'll do that every round. It's a new round, and we'll roll a party initiative versus an opponent initiative. But I don't do so much if you're using a halberd against plate mail, let's see here. No, I don't, because it just slow things down even more. And the same when I'm doing convention play, I just don't use it. I want to keep things moving as quickly as possible, and I don't even use an individual initiative during convention play. I use party initiative versus monster initiative, and it just keeps things so much simpler.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Okay, Matt, what about you?
Well, for initiative, I go individual initiative.
Okay.
So, and I actually been letting my players just declare what they're doing as they come up in the initiative order. If they cast a spell or something, I'll actually keep track of the segments for it to go off. And same with missile fire, I actually keep track of that. But other than that, I'm just like, everyone roll your initiative. Okay, I rolled this. Put them in order. What are you doing? Next.
So you kind of do it like the D20 method almost.
Yeah, it's closer to a D20 method, except I actually do keep track of segments when needed.
So do keep track. Like the D20 people don't. Like, screw it. We don't need to keep track.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Okay. Nick?
I pretty much do it very similar to how Matt does it. I use a D10 initiative for everybody. Everybody does individual initiative with any dex modifiers, of course.
That's probably because of your Hackmaster days, right?
Yeah, and that's how they did it, and that's kind of like that was kind of derived from second edition AD&D.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm most comfortable with, and it works pretty well. So I think the only other things is like I say if you're going to cast a spell, you announce it. If you're going to cast a spell, and if you're going to do a missile weapon, you don't have to roll initiative. If it's a bow, it goes off on. You can fire on initiative, segment 1 and on segment 6. If it's a single rate of fire, you can fire on segment 1. So, and magic, if they announce they're going to do a spell, they'll announce it at the beginning of initiative. And how many segments it goes off.
Yeah,
and that's how it's pretty much done. I mean,
yeah, and I would add in that when it comes to magic spells, it's like they begin casting on the party initiative. If if it takes 3 segments to get the spell off, then they're going to have to wait 3 segments after party initiative before the spell actually goes off. And if the monster or opponent goes on, the segment right after them and strikes that magic user, his spell's history.
Yep.
Cool. I kind of do, depending on the game, how I'm feeling that game when I started. I can either just use the basic D&D rules for combat, or if I've done the method that Jason and I spoke about a long time ago, when you do the reverse, rolling a d6, the lowest goes first. That side goes first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Segments get added to that number, and that's when, for say a spell has 5 segments, and say you rolled a 1 for your party side, the spell will go off on segment 5.
Yeah, that's how I do it too.
So you roll lowest first, then.
Yeah, lowest is best.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is too.
Yeah,
lowest is best.
Highest is best with me.
Well, according to the book, highest is best, and that's how you work from there. But I've always used the lowest is best, especially after Jason and I spoke about it. It kind of made more sense when we did it.
It works well for me because I mean, it's you're taking in if you want to use weapon speed, which I have done in one campaign, which makes a two-handed sword. The guy who's wielding that is always going last, but you know. And for spell casting, and if you're using weapon speed, I think lowest first is the best because it's just the most intuitive. You just add that number to whatever their initiative is.
Also, you got to keep it. You have the reaction adjustment modifier. So it could actually. I've had it many times where I've had person playing a thief. They got a high enough dex with they got a good roll on their initiative with reaction adjustment. They're in the negatives as far as initiative is concerned.
I only use reaction adjustment when it comes to individual initiative.
Well, that's how I do. I do an individual initiative.
I do it to the group. So, but sometimes they wander off and get killed. But they wander off and on their own.
Wander off and get killed.
Yeah, I think when I was gaming back in the day under other DMs, I always remember, you know, our general format was that he would say, you know, anybody got under a 0, and if you had a negative, say, oh, I got a -1 initiative this round. All right, what are you doing? You know, of course, I don't think he asked for actions first, but essentially, they would just say, you know, anybody got under a 0. Okay, now we're hitting 0s, 1s. 2s, 3s, and you chime out when it came up to your number.
Exactly. That's how I do it.
And unfortunately, when you do actions ahead of time, and sometimes people pick the same creatures to hit at the same time, their action will go into killing the same creature. That's how it works. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and I look at it this way: you guys didn't exactly have time to format a plan before you got jumped by 8 kobolds, you know, or hobgoblins. I would probably more likely say, but and that happens, you know. I mean, if you really were bum rushed by a group of things that were trying to kill you, you may very well end up having 2 people attacking the same thing.
Yep.
Cool. I've never actually looked at Addict or ADDICT because it was like 30 something pages long, and I don't need my combat that complicated.
Neither do I.
I mean, I know it was supposed to help make things easier, but I didn't want to read through all that, my combat easier. I knew how to do combat.
And really, when it comes to this game, the players don't have to know the rules of combat. They just say what they're doing, and it's the DM's job to decipher them into game mechanics. So you don't. It's only people that were worried about min-maxing their characters that really get bogged down into the math of combat.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't really think the players, you know, I'll have people at conventions who will say, do I need to know how to play this game to be in your game? I always say, no, you don't have to know. Do you know how to tell me what you're doing? I'll figure out the rules.
Right.
Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
I will yell at you what die you need to roll, and I will decipher everything else. Your job is to have fun.
If my 13-year-old daughter can figure it out, anybody can figure it out.
When I was running Marvel here locally, a couple people were like, do I need to know how to play? I'm like, no. Do you know how to roll 2 10-sided dice? Yes. That's all you need to do, and tell me what you're doing. And they never played a role-playing game before, jumped in the game, and were having fun. So,
honestly, I think those people are some of the best people to play with because, you know, they're not doing that whole metagaming angle. You know, they're doing probably a more realistic approach to what would really happen. They're telling you what they would do. They're not trying to figure the angles.
Right. They have no preconceived notions and ideas of what they need to do. They're just like, okay, I'll just go with the flow and have fun, which it should be.
Yeah, and the girl.
I agree.
Had fun. So, thanks, Graham. Next one comes in from Henry. And the question is, hey guys, when a group finds a magical weapon and it's not fully charged, do they get the same experience points as if it was fully charged, or does the character only get a fraction of it? Thanks, Henry. Officially, I guess I don't really see an official rule on that, but from what I've been told in the past, that they get a fraction of the experience points based on how many charges are left. Most DMs don't really do that. They just kind of just say, okay, worth 1,500, they get 1,500 because that's what the item is. But then I guess if they find a magic weapon has 0 charges in it, that would be not considered a magical weapon anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it wouldn't radiate magic anymore.
Wouldn't be. Yeah, it'd be fizzle, no good.
So I guess that basically would work then. That kind of.
If you want to do the math, when I'm no math genius, that's just too complicated for me.
Yeah. For me, it just seems like it would slow things down. And half the time, if I'm handing out magic items to the point where it would really matter, I'm trying to get my players leveled up rather quickly for whatever reason. So therefore, I'm going to give them the full.
Yeah, I am too. It's just easier.
The same here. I mean, my philosophy is always, if it slows down the progress of the game, don't do it. So I give them the full experience points, assuming it's still magical.
Yeah. I'm always for the roll a d6, let's figure it out and worry about it later type person. No need to slow the game down.
Right. But if you want to, I mean, if this person wants to figure it out, I mean, by all means, you can. There's nothing holding you back.
Right.
I think officially from Gary, he believed he did was if it was part charges were left, you base it off
right.
fraction of. But I don't think it was actually officially written. It could have been. And I'm sure someone's going to say, oh my God, I'm freaking out right now. It's on page. Right. And they have the book open, and they're crying over it right now. So I'm sure someone knows something about that.
These are probably the same people who cried over the second Hobbit film.
But the barrels were sealed inside the book.
What's wrong? Your beards weren't long enough.
There's that guy again. He's everywhere.
I just want to hear Christopher Walken freak out over that.
Hey, why beards not long enough on dwarves? Why?
I just love that.
They look like hipsters. Why? Short, 4 foot tall hipsters.
It's like going to a Star Trek movie and the people who just saw it coming out, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe Picard had his uniform looking like that and the bridge was just not the same. It's like, shut up. It's just a movie.
Yeah. That's right. It's just a movie. It's just a game. If you want to do percentages of the XP, go for it.
Anyway, thanks, Henry. Our last email comes in from Tig. I guess he's from the Sons of Anarchy. I don't know.
Either that or he's friends with Pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, our group was talking and wondering the following, and you can bear with me on this one because it sounds kind of weird. And I think I've seen this posted somewhere too, Nick. You might have as well, because we've been in a lot of forums. Our group was talking about it and wondering the following. If a human is drained to below 0 level by a wight or vampire, he rises a half-strength wight or vampire under the Slayer's control. Now, if a human drained to below 0 by an energy drain spell rises as a Juju Zombia. Why do you put Zombia? I don't know. Zombia. So what happens to a human drained below level 0 by a succubus? Thanks.
They die.
They die.
I don't know. The person is really happy. I have no idea.
You could take it in so many different ways.
Yes, I know.
They come back as a larva.
A harem?
Ooh, that would be nasty. They come back as a larva.
The closest comparison.
Oh, man, that would be so... Oh. Winner, chicken dinner right there.
Yeah.
Come back as a larva.
Yeah, that goes beyond the answer of a PG podcast.
Yeah. But I guess there's 2 ways you can look at it. Like we said, either one, they die. Just their soul goes on to Nirvana or the
Valhalla.
Twin Paradises or Valhalla, wherever lawful one they went to, wherever. Or
they
become a larva. I like the larva angle.
Yeah, I like it, but I mean, here's the counter argument. What if you were lawful good and always followed your alignment?
Tough noogies.
Then you shouldn't have gone down into the 9 hells. How good is that?
Right.
There you go.
You shouldn't be drained by a succubus. So.
Yeah.
What were you doing with a woman like that anyway? You couldn't have been that good.
Yeah.
You couldn't detect evil and figure it out? You paladin?
Yep. So I guess that's going to end Sage Advice this week with emails, rfistaff@gmail.com or 570-865-4210, the hotline. contact us on Facebook, facebook.com/RFI Podcast. Go to our website, rfipodcast.com, and there is a contact form there so you can email us directly in case you can't get to your email for some odd reason. I don't know why, but whatever. Contact us via the phone, 570-865-4210, and oh yeah, go on iTunes because Nick needs something to read in Christopher Walken's voice. I think Overstart Gaming Forums, go there if you'd like to just communicate with everybody. We have a nice little small community there for all the podcasts, including the new up-and-coming Dead Game Society podcast, which will be airing very shortly, hopefully.
Yay!
Once we get
would hope.
Yeah.
That is our hope.
Yes. And Critical Wits finally came out with a show.
Shut up.
Crispy and his friend are back, and they have a new show that was recorded over the summer that finally came out.
Oh.
I don't know. I guess he was busy.
Wow, they're going to the BBC method of putting out shows, huh?
He promises. I was speaking to him the other day. He promises he was editing another show. Should be out very shortly.
He's a big fan of Boston, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yes, so.
That is a band that has been around longer than any other band that can only put out 3 albums in their entire 2 decades.
Boston's awesome, man.
They just want to get it right, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's the show that, like Guns N' Roses, promising that album for 14 years and finally released it.
Chinese Democracy?
And it tanking, but at least his show didn't tank, so.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it gets really bad to the point when Dr. Pepper says, if they finally release the album, we'll give everybody a free Dr. Pepper.
And we didn't want to give it to them. We felt we owed it to them.
Yeah, we felt we owed it. The album was so horrible that nobody even bothered buying it. Anyway, let's go into our first segment.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I had to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
Table manners. We're going to talk a little bit about play-by-post, play-by-email, and play-by-snail mail this week. A lot of people still kind of do these things, even though most people are like, why bother? Because we could just go on the internet and play on Roll20. Yes, that was my snob voice.
Yes. It's really good.
Hey, I'm one of those people who still does play-by-post.
No, and there's nothing wrong with play-by-post. Maybe you have, a life, and you have children, and you have a wife, and you just don't have time to sit around and game like everyone else. I mean, nothing wrong with that. You have your thing. So what do? You resort to what you can do to still get that gaming experience.
Get your gaming fix.
Yeah, and to get your gaming
fix, game on.
It's something. Get your game on. It's something that we used to do before online tools such as Roll20 or WebRPG, OpenRPG, map tools,
or even chat boards,
even live chat, or Internet Relay Chat was around back then, but
Mud,
things like that. So a lot of times people resorted to, let's start with play by mail, actual snail mail. Now, Matt and I are experiencing that because we took place in that IWA, was it, Matt?
I never actually played, but I knew about it, and it actually is still in existence for those that subscribe.
IWA, pretty much you would pay like $1 or $2, and you would pick your wrestler, and you would put his moves down on a piece of paper, and you would also put down like a little, a promo blurb.
Right.
And hopefully you spelled right and everything's grammatically correct. Obviously, they would probably fix it, but... Then you name your character, and then probably within a month or so, you get a giant letter back in the mail that has all the results of everything, and kind of did like a play-by-play wrestling type thing. And it was kind of fun, interesting, but too slow.
Yeah, and it still exists, and if you want to sign up, you still have to actually mail their P.O. box, so they're keeping it real. You can't even you can't even fill out a form online to enter. You have to physically write it out and mail it to them.
Is it IWA.com or
playiwa.com?
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's just an old website. Does it has current news on it or?
It has copyright 2014. So
yeah, but it could be one of those scripts that aren't.
Well, actually, no. It actually has a date updated 1/2/13. League champions.
Okay, I was going to say, because if you made an action and a year later you're still waiting for the result, you might be on a dead site.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. It's still real. If you go on the main page, I've just found all the updates. Let's see. 1114. 1114 Hall of Fame. New inductee. Yeah. So it's still up. Crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it's old.
Well, I know like regular play-by-mail is about as old as, gaming can get. I mean,
I would think it's practically older than Dragon Magazine, isn't it?
well, yeah. I mean, the original play-by-mail was done forever with chess.
Yeah, with chess.
You had people who would mail each other and their moves, and then I know in the 50s and really into the 60s, did you have play-by-mail for war games? I know when Axis and Allies, or not Axis and Allies came out, but Diplomacy.
Well, Diplomacy, yeah. I was going to say they used it.
Yeah, Diplomacy for sure.
Yep.
I know that.
I also did a Hyborian War play-by-mail.
Yeah, I remember the advertisements in Dragon Magazine for those.
Yeah, I sent away for it, got my first packet, and never actually played, but the map it came with was really pretty sweet. And I'll put a link in the show notes. You can actually find the someone scanned the map in, and the map was giant. And it's a thing of glory. It just breaks down every province and territory of the world. And
yeah, I know Dragon for a while had a section on play-by-mail stuff.
Yeah.
They review play-by-mail games and talk about certain strategies, I guess. But I remember some of the games, like you talked about Hyborian War. There was a Star Trek play-by-mail game.
Looks like there was a Forgotten Realms one.
There might have been one.
Yeah, actually,
I do remember the Star Trek one.
Yeah.
I remember they had always some really big, one-page layouts for those in Dragon Magazine.
Yeah, I just put the Forgotten Realms one in the our chat, and I'll put a link to it.
You put Fotten Realms, exactly.
Realms.
Yes, the Fotten Realms.
The Fotten Realms.
Fotten Realms.
They fought around.
Sounds like something else they're doing in the realms, but
yeah,
okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Nick.
So many magic beans.
Yeah. Beans, yeah. So as time went on, things evolved, and we had something called Prodigy, AOL, CompuCom, I believe.
CompuServe.
So thank you. And then we started getting
Prodigy. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. People started getting access to things such as email. Dun dun dun.
The internet.
Yeah. So then people started doing email, play by email.
On your 9600 baud modem.
96. I remember suction cup modems for 300 or 100 baud modems.
Whoa.
Yeah. I had a friend that went to college that used to go, I hacked the Pentagon with a 300 baud modem. We used to always call him a liar, too.
Well,
he wouldn't be alive. He'd probably be dead and shot by the government if he hacked the Pentagon. Or at least
he would be dead first, then shot by them.
Yeah.
Has anybody else, by the way, seen the commercial where they try to sell voice over IP to old people and they say, you now have the most powerful tool at your fingertips, the internet? I swear that's how they say it, and you know they're
I don't
advertising
trust
this
it.
to old
It's
people.
the government getting into my brain. No,
It's the Google. I don't like the Google.
I don't like the Google.
So people used to start doing multiple email addresses in one big giant send and start doing play by email, which would be similar to play by mail, except it was very quick because you would get emails daily. And I think the time AOL servers, Prodigy, and CompuServe servers would do emails once. Was it real time or was it once every 24 hours?
It was real time.
It was real time, I believe.
I don't remember exactly, but I remember it did take a little while for some of the emails to go through. Evolving with email came, what do they call them? Something like email list. Email list, it's called. Where Yahoo Groups is now currently what it's called. Back in 95, 6, it was called OneList, which was you would go to the onelist.com. And you would be able to sign up and have your own email massive distribution list. So you would only have to email, say, go to the group, store there, and then boom, shoot out to everybody at once. And then the people surrounding the group would just have to hit reply, boom, goes back to the group, keeps a copy, sends it back out. So it was kind of easier that way. I did run on one list, and then which became e-groups, which then got bought out by Yahoo. So I did run a campaign on there for called House on Horror Hill, my own version of it, and it did actually get voted by Yahoo for second best horror game of 2000.
Wow.
Golf clap. If you can't hear it, I am doing it.
Yeah. It wasn't a big deal. It was just something nice.
Actually, I think that's kind of cool.
It is kind of.
And as more people became, I guess as the internet evolved and more people were easily to get online besides AOL, started becoming what DSL started coming around. So people stopped using AOL and laughed at people using AOL. And people were able to get to websites without using, other things. So forums started showing up. The first place for forums that I can remember correctly, thinking about for play-by-post now, was EasyBoard. I don't know what year EasyBoard started, but I know a lot of people jumped onto the EasyBoard bandwagon, where you would all just log onto one site, easyboard.com/your-forum, whatever, Vince's game, and you would just play by post.
Play by post,
yeah. What's that? What, Nick?
So, okay, I just said play by post. I got you.
Yeah, play by post. So when you would log into EasyBoard, say whatever requirements were. So say the person running the game said, I need you guys to check in at least twice a week. Twice a week, you'd jump in and you would look at the forums under whatever the current postings were to see what was posted by your fellow players or your DM. And then based upon that, you'd make your actions and post your actions. EasyBoard was the best place to go because it was free. And it was very customizable. There was a lot of really good boards made out of it that were, because you can go right into the back end and customize, I guess, the CSS or whatever it's called. I don't know. I'm not a web programmer. Which eventually got bought out by Yuku. I think it's called YUKU now. Yeah, YUKU. I'm looking at the website. They're the social community. You can go there and still do the same thing, but it's not as customizable anymore. That's gone. And eventually, it also turned into other sites having it, such as, Chad, you were talking about roleplay, rpool.net, where you can go.
Yeah, it's probably been around for over 20 years now. I know I've been playing on it for 20 years. It's called Roleplay Online, and you can find it at rpol.net, and they have hundreds of games going on at any given time.
Some of them might be dead, though. I've checked a lot of them.
Well, I mean, the thing to do, though, is they have, if you go into the forums, you can see, like, their classifieds. They'll have a wanted GMs and a wanted players. And if you go into the wanted players at any given time, I'd say there's a good 100 games that are recruiting actively to begin. Now, so you can find, I mean, just about any game you can think of. And if you can't find the game that you want to play and you, for some reason, don't mind running it, you can post in the, a lot of times people post in the wanted GMs. They'll say, I'm really looking for somebody who'll run Boot Hill. And then a bunch of other people will jump on that forum thread and they'll say, me too. And then somebody will come on and say, I'll do it. And then bam, you instantly have a party and a group and a game going.
So that you have that website, which came around 2000, because I'm looking at their website right now. Served the community since 2000. So they've been around for 14 years now, which you can go in there and play by post. Beautiful community. I've played games on there before. Chad's played games. Matt, you played any games on there?
No, I have not.
Okay, no biggie. Fun to play there. Good place.
Yeah, I'm currently running a game there, actually.
Okay, awesome. There's also RPGcrossing.com. Which has about 30,000 plus members. It is a play-by-post RPG forum area. They have a lot of D&D games, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, Pathfinder, GURPS, D20 Modern, Serenity, Star Wars, World of Darkness, and many more. Pretty good website. I've never used them, but I've heard some good things about them. There's also the Unseen Servant forum. You can go there, unseenservant.us/forum, but it just kind of directs you after the US, which they're a friend of our forums. They're really good. They have a ton of games on here. I'm looking at them right now. And you just got to sign up there and do a few posts, and I believe they'll let you have your own little sub-forum to play a game. Let's see here. There's also a place that I've played many times since I was able to get on AOL and Prodigy. It's called star-fleet.com. It's a Star Trek bulletin board style or play-by-post style Star Trek role-playing game. It actually was founded in 1991. I'm looking at the About page. And they started on Prodigy.
Huh.
Oh, my God. Prodigy. I remember that.
Me too.
And they have pretty much less than they used to have, but they have about 6 or 7 different fleets on here that you have many ships, and basically you'd have players and 1 GM per ship, along with a captain and an executive officer and whatever else positions are on there. It's fun. It's a lot of work, especially when you get yourself. You actually have to work your way up to becoming a captain and having your own ship. And you have to prove yourself reliable before you get that position. Oh. So it's actually something to work for if you're really interested in that type of thing for like Star Trek. Cool. A lot of fun. I've been a GM also and a captain of a ship, so it's a lot of fun playing on here. Good people. They help you out. They're not here to, deter your role-playing fun, but they want to show you a good time. I also skipped one other method that was way back in the early day. I'm not sure what year it started, but Internet Relay Chat was also another place people did a lot of role-playing also. That's real-time live chatting back and forth.
Yeah, now that sounds similar to the Mushes, the multi-user shared habitats.
I think Mushes were late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
No, they were early 90s, actually, because I remember when I first started playing them was my sophomore year in college in 91. I was playing City of Darkness, which was a vampire game based in London, and I was also doing Amber Mush, which has been around forever, which is basically Amber Diceless, but it's still around as far as I know. But they're kind of like a derivation of a MUD. Mm-hmm. If you guys have ever played a MUD, multi-user, I don't even remember what the D stands for. They're more kind of action, just attack, type games. Kind of
I always consider MUD like playing, what is it, Zork,
yeah.
Yeah, and that was another thing I was going to bring up was Zork. If you really want to go back into the day, the mid 80s, early 80s of online gaming, I guess you would say, was Zork. Yeah. You played against a computer and you could be eaten by a grue, but
right.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember Zork. Yes.
Yep.
Totally text-based games.
Right.
I think MUDs had more graphics in them than Mushes did.
Yeah.
Mushes were more about the role play as opposed to the combat.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this was also back when you had to connect via BBS.
Yeah. Bulletin board services. You had to connect locally to your bulletin board service, dialing a number.
Yeah.
I remember my parents going nuts because to play them, and it was like, oh, it's every time you call, it's 10 cents a call. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it wasn't that. Yeah, for me, fortunately, it was the time of unlimited calling when I was doing BBSs, because I was actually even doing BBSs up until like the late 90s. There was still some BBSs in Cincinnati I would call into.
I always remember Tiny Mush. That was like one of the original Mush formats, or it was Tiny Mush. I thought that was a goofy name.
So let's so we've gone over pretty much the history and everything like that. Let's talk a little etiquette now. The DM or the GM will lay out the rules of the game. You as a player, obviously, like a regular role-playing game, are expected to follow these rules. Not a good idea, especially when you're playing play-by-post or even play-by-email, to keep posting over and over and over again. These are timely games that take a long time, so you have to wait. If you're impatient, find a game that posts every single day. But if you're in one of those games where the DM says to you, I'm sorry, we're posting once a week or twice a week, don't play in the games. Because there's nothing worse than running a game and having this player that posts 400 emails in a matter of one span of action because they're impatient and want things to move forward. I don't know, Chad, have you ever experienced that with any of your players?
Yeah, I have, and it's a very common occurrence. And one of the things that I always do, and I always put, when I start a play-by-post game, I'll have a house rules thread where nobody posts in that thread. That's my rules. You're expected to read it and adhere to it. And one of the rules is you do not post twice. You post once, and then you wait for everybody else to do their action, because you do not get to post once and then again before you have to wait for their response. And that may take a while, I mean, they're busy too. They have lives. Another rule in my house rules is, try to post at least once every 2 days. So you should never have to wait longer than a day and a half or so to get your
set expectations so they know.
Exactly. And that's another etiquette. As from a GM's point of view, etiquette is always to set expectations. If you can't do that, your players you can't get mad at your players if you didn't tell them what rules to adhere to. I'm actually logging into my game right now and looking at my house rules thread. And things like players are expected to behave in a civil manner to one another.
Well,
no thought sniping. Well, we're going to
the next
we can save that a little bit, but definitely that does come up where you have people that will try to double post, and you have to say, look, which one are you doing? You can't do both because you have to let the other guy respond before you can do another action.
I found it helpful to have the in-character posts where all the action is regulated by the GM. And then if the player wants to, do what they call a character development thread, where, say, for example, they're all sitting around the campfire and something's about to happen. There's time period where characters just talk and chat with each other. If you're one of those people that just has to post, go in there. And usually there's one or two players that have to post. Those two people will jump in that thread and just do talking back and forth. So there you go. There's your little solution to a little bit of fun. To have real time or whatever.
Cool.
I'm trying to think what else we have. That was mostly the etiquette. Also, try to don't post in funky colors. If you have to, usually the GM will put the etiquette out there, which Chad will talk about in a few minutes. But try not to do too much out of character chatter during your posts via email or via post by forum. It gets rather annoying to see like 3 lines of out of character and then 1 line of my character walks over to the rock. And of course, there's different style ways of posting, which we'll get into that in the DM rules section, which is more of the etiquette of the GM side, because the GM will have to determine how the players post things. I don't know. Anybody have any questions or follow-up things?
Well, I did a little research, and I found out the Forgotten Realms play-by-mail, the Hyborian Wars, and they also did a gladiatorial combat one, are still going on.
That's awesome.
You can go to reality.com. What an amazing domain to have. Really? And still sign up.
It's called reality.com?
Yeah.
Wow, whoever got that domain must be getting offers from everybody.
Yeah, because they've been running since 1984, these games.
Holy mackerel.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fact that they actually still have the Forgotten Realms license.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
Well, I don't think they really need a Forgotten Realms license.
No, they actually use the Forgotten Realms artwork and logo. It's because they had to change their name. It was originally their Gladiator game was called Duel Masters. Then Wizards of the Coast released Duel Masters card game, so they had to change their name to Duel 2. So somehow they still have permission to use Forgotten Realms.
Well, it's just like if I run a play-by-mail game, I could still use the Forgotten Realms
for
logo.
Profit? They charge you.
Yeah, but you're not really... I think you get away with the technicality, though.
No, they actually use Forgotten Realm art. They use then the names, the trademarks, and...
Then all I could think of is if they have some type of deal that went with TSR that carried over to Wizards.
Right.
Must have.
Yeah. Because their license agreement was from 1995.
Is that what it says? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on their page right now, yeah. So it must have just been one of those existing licenses that got carried over. Who knows how that was?
Or it got completely looked over by WotC when they took over TSR.
Right,
Maybe
they
was under the radar.
Right, they're probably writing them a small check anyway, because at this point it's play by mail. It's not like WotC will ever get into that field, and it's probably exclusively for play by mail. So at that point, it's just an extra little bit of money they make every year.
85. That was just when Gary was pushed out. 84. No, actually, it says 84. So he was still around. So maybe Gary thought if it was something cool, gave him the license, and said, "What the heck?"
Yeah, you never know.
So yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Sign up there and check them out. I think that's really about it for player side. So let's head into some DM rules and talk about the GM side.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want, but I have a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
And now we are in DM rules, and we're going to actually talk about running a game. Be it play by post or play by email. I mean, a lot of the prep is going to be like running a tabletop game. The biggest thing that'll differ is, one, how are you going to handle dice rolls? Do you have trustworthy players? Do you trust them to tell you the numbers? Or you can go and there's a lot of online tools for automated dice rolling.
That was a lot of the questions I had in my head.
Yeah, there's one, if you pbegames.com is just a great depository for resources for anyone looking to run a game online. They have name generators, they have dice rollers, they for various systems. You can even roll your fudge dice on this site. But with this, with the dice rollers, the way they work is you actually put in, when you roll the dice, it generates like a code saying this is your dice roll and says it's authentic, and you put in the email address of your GM. So as you hit roll, it emails your dice rolls to your GM.
Oh, wow.
And then
I've used those before. They are really neat. You can't fudge them because, I mean, it doesn't email it to you. You hit OK, roll. You set your criteria in there, and it emails it directly to your GM.
Right. And usually there is a note area as well. So you can type in, this is for this attack or this skill check or whatever you're using it for. So you even make a note of that in the roll. What I've also found is useful when doing combat, just to speed things up, go ahead and assume you hit and roll your damage as well. So that way you're not, okay, post, I rolled for hit, here's what I rolled, wait for a response. Okay, now roll again, damage. Just roll them all at once.
That's actually very good that you mentioned that, Matt, because that's something that when I run a game, and I think a lot of the guys that are experienced running games play by post, we almost always say, roll your damage also. You know, if you don't hit, don't worry about it. I'll ignore it.
Right.
But we're just saving a ton of time by doing this. And I was also going to say, a lot of these play-by-post sites do have dice rollers built into them. Say Roleplay Online, rpol.net, they have a dice roller built into it, and you can't lie on it. You know, I mean, you put the dice you're going to roll, and if the GM says, I'm going to make all the rolls, which I do because, again, it saves time, the players see it. They know that I'm not, you know, I'm putting in the information. I'm hitting enter, and it's saying what the result is, and it's completely random.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then also, the only time I've ever done play-by-post was actually just on like a PHP forum we specifically made for a playtest. So any off-topic, out-of-character chatter was confined to a separate forum. So if you have the ability to make multiple forums, so that way you can have, okay, this forum is for character creation. That way you don't have to scroll through like 50 pages of posts to find what is actually going on. And then as we advance through different parts of the adventure, we would close out one forum and create a new one for the new area of the world we're in or what we're currently doing. So
let's see, with emails, it was a little bit more difficult to do that. So with etiquette for emails, we used to have anything in parentheses was considered out of character. Anything out of parentheses was considered in character. If you were talking, obviously you would either pick first person or third person, depending on what the GM decided, using proper quotes. Actions were done with asterisks, beginning and front and end. I should say front and end. Sometimes GMs wanted different colors. Didn't really matter some of those at the time, but out of character was always usually kept to a minimum of maybe one line if need be.
Right.
Dice rolls were inserted into emails, obviously, sometimes depending on what system you used. Matt suggested a few, Chad did. So it depends on what you're using.
Yeah, I think the key is just for all of that type of bookkeeping and organizational stuff, just put a little thought in before you even start the game so everyone knows exactly what the procedures are before they get involved. And that way you don't start the game then realize, oh wait, there's way too much out of character chatter in this current thread, and it's just making things confusing, or maybe people, you've experienced players but they've played in under different rules. So therefore, their way of saying out of character is different from someone else's, and that starts confusing people. Just think of ways to standardize what's in character, what's out of character, how the roles are being handled, and just be upfront with that.
Yeah, if it's played by email, obviously have a website with all the rules laid out, so in case people forget, they could just jump over there, look up what they need to do. If it's played by post, obviously you put them in a separate post. You can even lock it if you want and let people ask questions in the out of character.
Right.
Just so they have, and if you update it, make sure you put a little note there that says rules updated. So when the players go to the forum, they see the little logo indicating it has a new post, so they can go and take a look.
Right. Also think of how will you handle if a player disappears for an extended period. Do you want the game to come to a screeching halt if someone disappears for 5 days? Or is that okay? Or do you spell out, well, if you disappear, this is what will happen? Either you take over the character, or if it's combat, you just do, default attacks. How will that be handled? And also be prepared. People do take vacations and stuff and go offline for a while. So you may have a player that hops out, at which point you would ask them, give me general instructions to handle this character while you're gone.
You have to lay out every single rule. You have to think of every single angle before playing it. I would suggest going to various different other play-by-post or different play-by-emails and just see generally what they have listed there, modify, and choose as you move on. Just make sure everything is up front and everybody knows what they're doing so that there'll be no questions. And like Matt said, if somebody's missing for an extended period of time, you should, as a GM, try to email them or contact them via the forums, then jump to email. I would at least give a person a 3-strike rule. You're going to have to keep record of this as a GM. Yes, it sucks, but you do. Give someone, because there's going to be people that are going to abuse the heck out of what you do. And I've seen it happen to me. Chad, did it ever happen to you? People abuse you with not showing up and then showing up and then things like that?
Yeah, it happens. One of the standard things to do is just like Matt was saying, you put in a disclaimer in your house rules saying, for instance, I have a standard house rules disclaimer I use that says basically, I don't expect you to hang on this game every minute of your life. But if you cannot post once every 2 days, I retain full right to puppet your character. And I always put one final, I always bullet my house rules, but the final bullet usually says something along the lines of, this is a game for us all to enjoy. But if I'm going to be running it, I have to also enjoy it. And if you're making a lot of trouble in the game and making me not enjoy running you, I reserve full right to drop you from the game.
Yeah.
So if they start abusing the other rules that I've listed, I can always fall back on that one.
So you definitely have to keep track of what's going on with your players. I've had players leave the game for like a week at a time and then not respond to emails and all of a sudden be like, oh, I was on vacation, or oh, this got sick, which is understandable. Sometimes things happen in life and you have to kind of give some leeway. But if you see a pattern happening, you kind of just have to put a stop to it and tell the person, have a nice day in a nice way. Nothing you can do.
Right.
Yeah, there's not much you can do in that situation. And you know, I'm guilty of sometimes being a very absentee GM too when life gets in the way, and I try to make sure my players know what's going on in my life when I do that. So I mean, it does happen, and you'll notice if you join one of these games, it does happen in both directions.
I've seen a lot of games on our pool on play by post. They'll be fast and furious for the first 5 to 6 months, and then it starts teetering out, and then it's usually gone.
Yeah, what happens is burnout comes in, especially with the fast and furious games. I mean, a play-by-post can be slow, but it can be almost as fast as tabletop if everybody is online at the time and quickly responding. But what happens is a lot of times the flame that burns twice as fast burns out twice as fast. And these GMs, myself included, it's happened to me before. You get to a point where you're just like, I don't want to play this game anymore. I really want to run Star Frontiers. Yeah. And you got this whole idea in your head, and yet you have this other game that you're supposed to be running. And the rule of etiquette is to let your players know, hey guys, I'm getting burnt out, or life is really hitting me right now. I don't have time. Maybe somebody else wants to take over the game. And really, it's about the same as in a tabletop game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People burn out. It's easy to burn out on these games, and I've seen them last as little as a couple weeks. It just all depends on the players and the GM. So you have to, I'm going to say, go an extra step when prepping for these games than a normal weekly face-to-face game, only because it just seems to just die out real quickly as you think you have all these great ideas, and then time moves on and you're just like, meh.
Right. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, these are not your best friends that you meet up with face-to-face every week and can call up on the phone and say what's happening. These are names on a computer screen, and unfortunately, it does seem easier when you're doing it that way to just say, treat it like these are not living people on the other side, and, you know, and just, you know, stop playing. It happens. So if you do decide to get into play-by-post, you need to have that mindset already, have the thick skin that, you know, it may be a great game and it may end after 3 weeks.
Or it may last 10 years.
I ran my Amber game for close to 5 years on RPool at one point, and my D&D game that I'm running right now has been going on for about the last 2 years. So a good idea if you're going to do this is you try to look at the GM's other games. How long does he tend to run a game? And you know, like I said, I've had 5-year games, 2-year games, but I've had 1 month games. You know, some games, and it's not always the GM. Sometimes the players don't post very often, and the GM just says, well, you know, if I'm going to put all this effort into a game and the players aren't even posting that much, I'm done. I'm going to go start a new game or look for a new game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, try to find out what their batting average is. You know,
sometimes they're new GMs and you don't have a batting average, so you kind of just got to go with it. Yeah.
And yet that new GM, he may be a 20-year DM veteran, and he's just doing play-by-post for the first time, and he may be your 10-year game.
Or he could be the guy who jumps into it thinking I've been GMing for 35 years. This will be easy. And then after about a week goes, oh, crap, what did I get myself into?
Right.
And then
exactly.
Yes, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, with this, I would almost, as a DM, start scheduling time. Even though my players may not have a set time they're going to hop in and post, but I'll be like, every day I will post something about the campaign at this time. Be consistent. So that way your players also know, okay, the daily update will be at this time. I need to check and see what's going on.
Well, Matt, I think you're on to something there, but the one reason why I like play-by-post, and one of the biggest drawing factors of play-by-post, is the flexibility to schedule. Right. And if you say I'm always going to post at 5 o'clock, right, every day,
right,
yeah,
that wouldn't work for me, because if I had the ability to say that I'm always going to post, I'm always going to be online at 5 o'clock to do this, well, then I might as well do something like Roll20, where I'm online and just do it live, or do it via Skype or something.
Well,
like that.
I'm not even saying you have to be online and composing it. I'm just saying that's when they know they'll see it. It's kind of like how you schedule a blog post.
Though. My work schedule may preclude that. It may be that I just can't do that, and that's why I do play-by-post, because it's so flexible around your schedule that. And I hear what you're saying, and that may be. I think there even are some people who do it that way. I'm just saying though that one of the appeals of play-by-post is this pure flexibility to schedule. It just warps around your schedule, and if you can't make it at 5 o'clock, I mean, part of why you would be doing play-by-post is because you don't have the time to say that I'm always going to be, like this. I guess is what I'm saying.
Matt referencing every day at 5 o'clock. Matt gets home from work every day. He has about 45 minutes to spend doing this before it becomes family time, dinner time. So that's his unwind. And every day at 5 o'clock, boom, Matt will be there posting. Promise.
Sure.
Boom, dinner, family time. That's the end of it.
Right.
But don't expect every one of your players to be able to.
No. I'm just talking as the person running it. So that way you can set aside your time when you should be free 9 times out of 10. You may even say like every other day or whatever fits. You running it so that way your players have a little bit of a schedule. Mm-hmm. They know you're on. Whether or not they follow it, that's up to them. But I think that might give them a little nudge to know, okay,
when to expect the post.
Right, when to expect the post. And also, since you're on a schedule, they might start saying, well, I can set aside this much time to respond to it.
Yeah,
right. And it doesn't take much time to respond to these, and that's another drawing point of play-by-post is that you only need about as long as it takes you to write out an action, during the day.
Right.
We're talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of your day, and then you're back to doing what you need to be doing. Now, for a GM, it takes a good deal longer, actually, because you're no longer writing. One thing I've found out by playing play-by-post is that from both sides of the table is that if you're a player, it doesn't take hardly any time out of your day. And then that's why a lot of players start to say, well, where's that GM's post? Well, the GM, on the other hand, is having to look at, say, 7 different people's posts and formulating what the opposing action is, or figuring out how this is all their posts are factoring into just walking down the tunnel, per se. It could be an entire paragraph for the GM to get out. So it may take him an hour to formulate his response because he's going to answer everybody at one time in one post most of the time. But then again, he may have that, and he may have private messages that were sent to him. And now he's got to start addressing all the private messages on top of that. The player doesn't have to do all that, but the GM does. Right. So the GM needs a lot more time to formulate their response.
I definitely know as a GM, I've sent messages to players of what to expect from a situation and have to respond to those and include those in my post as well. So it's not easy.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Now, one thing I will say, and I think to a large degree, most of your players, if your game continues on, they're gonna pretty much figure out your schedule because, for instance, I tend to post always in the morning. They can pretty much assume that if they haven't seen a post from me by 3 o'clock, they're not going to that day because I don't really post, in the afternoon. But they can get up in the morning, log into their computer, and they should see a post because I usually post in the morning. And that just because that's my schedule, that's how it always seems to come out. And over time, even if I don't say that's when I'm going to do it, they're going to notice that's the repetitive pattern. But a lot of times, and it is a good idea as a GM to put in your house rules that you tend to post in the morning.
Right.
I don't know if I put an exact time, but I would say I tend to post in the morning, so look for that. Or I tend to post in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah.
Another tip for a GM is when you do post, don't leave it so open-ended that a character, or I should say a player, can just start assuming things and start taking actions for the situation. Like, I played with a GM who said one of my characters was a modern-day campaign. He's like, you're sitting at a table with the blah characters, and you notice a man swipe a necklace from whatever, a woman, and start running. What do you do? It's just like, that's kind of open-ended. Okay, I chase after him, and that's pretty much your post. You can't say, I chase after him, I tackle him to the ground, and I punch him in the face, and ask him a question. You know, maybe the GM has more plans in store. Don't leave open-ended things like that. Try to describe a little bit more, and the player that you're directing this to, try to send them a message to let them know what's going on as well, so they can direct their post properly. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes as well. And that's all about that.
Wow, a lot of stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Nick, you're here?
I'm in on. No, well, this is like all new to me because I don't do play by post or play by email type stuff. So a lot of this, about etiquette and also preparing for a game, this is all new to me. So this is really good information.
Yeah, and if you actually decide to run like a module through a play by post, now you can actually use that flavor text. Just copy and paste it. So there is
I love play by post because you can actually, as a GM,
attach pictures.
You can attach photos, which I do. You can really think out. You can look at what everybody's doing, and then you can sit there and you can actually think out how you're going to answer all this stuff. You have the time to do it, and as a player, you have the time to do the exact same thing. But you can put the flowery prose in too, which is always kind of nice.
Right.
I love, that's another big drawing factor, is that you can make a detailed post. And if somebody, I hate this at the game table when, as a GM, you go into great detail about something. And then you go around the table for actions, and you realize this one guy he wasn't even listening. He's doing something that you're like, what?
He's texting.
Did you even listen to what I said? Well, the same thing happens in play by post, except now you can say, dude, go back to what I wrote 2 posts ago. Because he'll be like, and this happens. The player will be like, well, what do you mean? I can do this. And you can be like, what part of what I wrote 2 posts above did you not understand? And then they go back and they go, oh, I didn't read that.
Yeah.
Why didn't you read that? I took the time to write it. You should take the time to read it. But, and essentially they have no leg to stand on at that point to rules lawyer you because they didn't read your post.
Yeah. GM etiquette, to recap, set your expectations, set your rules, make sure everyone's clear on everything. Things may be adjusted as you move on. Just make sure everybody is on the same page with everything. And read your posts. Plan ahead. I don't know what's more to say about that.
Yeah. I mean, it pretty much covers it because the foundation is still that of a tabletop game. That all you're doing is changing the medium which through the information is transferred.
Exactly. It should really be handled much like that. The only other ones, as far as etiquette, I would add, and this is just from experience and seeing how this can get weird with some of these players you don't know. One, I always put in no thought sniping because people are writing, they feel like they can talk about, well, I think he's evil or blah, 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 and then they say, well, I never said it. I'm like, I always say, you know what? Nobody here is psychic, so we shouldn't know what your character is thinking. Please don't tell us what your character is thinking, or I'm going to make it an obvious look on your face that everybody can get. So we call it thought sniping.
Yeah.
Another one, and this is the one I thought I love this. Somebody else put this in their house rules, and I adopted it because I loved it so much. because you can get some really weird players trying to work out life issues of their own life.
Oh,
and
God.
so I put in, I am not here to help you work out your issues in real life, nor is my game a place to release your inner freak. If you are the type of player who enjoys shocking others for the sake of shocking others, this is not the game for you. If you are the type who creates a character but just wants to roleplay weddings and luncheons, this is not the game for you. Your in-character parents did not molest you as a child. Please do not bring that into my game. I do not want to know anything that is R-rated or worse about your character or how you feel about your own life within my game.
That's your expectations, yeah.
I put that in there, and it sounds funny, but you really need to do that.
Oh my gosh, I would even put that in a regular face-to-face game. It's just like,
I've seen that in face-to-face games.
Oh yeah,
In there. Right. I'm not a psychologist. I'm the GM.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we're a couple role-playing at the tables working out their marital issues. That's always fun.
Did you have your game, Matt?
No.
Someone had that in one of their games. Was that you, Nick?
I've seen it.
Someone on our show in the past had that problem.
Jason?
I don't think it was Jay. I'm trying to think it was either you or it was Nick.
No.
I think it was me. We had in my group there was a husband and wife who they're no longer with the group.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way.
One more biggie I should mention, and this is big, and this happens all the time in play-by-post. It's very bad etiquette, and I put a rule in finally, this one that says, while this game, you tag your game in a lot of these sites, like they're based on how much explicitity you're going to allow within that game, right? So if and I know on Roleplay Online has what they call the kind of the top level of it, which is tagged adult. And if you have to be 18 years of age, you have to send in, this is how old I am, I'm legally allowed to view explicit material. But even then, in my games, I put in a little thing that says, this is not Cinemax, this is a game. So keep things that would be Cinemax off.
This isn't Cinemax After Hours here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a role-playing game, not a slash fic.
Exactly. I do not want to see you posting with another player about how things are happening. Nobody cares. Keep that between yourselves. You can send a private message. I don't care, but it better not be on my game.
Simple fade to black works.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
You're with the barmaid and fade to black.
But that can happen because, again, you don't always know the people that are that have asked to join your game. You have to trust that they're good. These are not your best buddies, that you're meeting every week. Right. And I swear there are some strange ones out there that you have to tell them.
No, you don't. Really? There's some strange ones out there.
Yeah. I just tell them straight off. That's your best rule. This stuff ain't going to fly on my game. Most 90% of players are cool. But there are a few oddballs when they release their inner freak out there.
All right. I guess that's going to wrap up this show this week about Play by X. We'll call this show Play by X, right, Matt?
Yeah, I have it Play by ...
That works. Play by ... That works for the name.
Play by telegraph? D.
Well, actually...
Play by Morse code.
Yes. It's
the steampunk version.
Yeah.
This is it.
Well, hey, do you think in the old days cavemen used smoke signals?
Oh. Play by smoke.
I doubt it. Doubt it. Anyway, that's going to end the show this week. For those of you that signed up for my online actual play podcast, that'll be starting very shortly. Actually, probably be started by the time this comes out. I don't know when this actually comes out, this show. So those involved, get ready. We'll have some fun. And yeah, keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey, everyone.
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at rfipodcast.com or contact us on our forums at osrgaming.org or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.